Call me Ishmael. Some years ago, never mind how long precisely, having little or no money in my purse, and nothing particular to interest me on shore, I thought I would sail about a little and see the watery part of the world.
Humans have engaged in whaling since prehistoric times. The origins of America's whaling industry were in New York and New England. By the 18th century, whaling had become a highly lucrative deep-sea industry, with voyages extending for years at a time and with vessels traveling as far as South Pacific waters. In the 1830s, the United States became the preeminent whaling nation in the world. Whale oil was vital in illuminating homes and businesses in the 19th century and served as a dependable lubricant for the machines powering the Industrial Revolution. The pursuit and use of whale oil, along with many other aspects of whaling, are discussed in Herman Melville's Moby-Dick. In the novel, the preciousness of the substance to contemporary American society is emphasized when Ishmael, the fictional narrator, notes that whale oil is more scarce than the milk of queens. Today, most nations agree that killing whales is cruel and unnecessary. Ahoy and welcome aboard! Several factors contributed to the decline of America's whaling industry during and after the Civil War, one of them being the discovery of petroleum in the 1850s. It's an interesting coincidence that the city of Titusville, Pennsylvania, which is considered to be the birthplace of the modern oil industry, is also the domicile of Great Eastern Cutlery, the company that made this knife and called it Whaler. To fully appreciate this knife, we have a lot to cover. So this is going to be a rather lengthy video. We need to dive deeply into the history of American knife patterns, and we will take some excursions into Herman Melville's novel Moby-Dick. So relax and enjoy the cruise on our spacious sun deck. But before we start, I would like to say a big thank you to Mr. Gary Norton, the owner of the online store northwestknifecompany.com. I bought all my GEC knives from him, and once again he helped me with picking the right knife for my collection. So if you're interested in GEC knives, don't miss to check out his website. This knife is huge. It's a gigantic knife with 2 blades. It comes with one of the largest master blades ever made for a pocket knife. Look at this. By the way, the weight comes in at 7 ounces. The closed length is 4.5 inch. I call it the Moby-Dick among traditional American knife patterns. Great Eastern Cutlery calls it Whaler. However, historically the most common name for this knife pattern is Jumbo Swell-Center, which is a special variant of a knife pattern called elephant toenail or sunfish. Confused? I was too. Until I found Scott King's excellent website elephanttoenails.com. Scott King is a collector of toenails, and his website provides a plethora of information on the toenail knife pattern. Let me give you the short version. The generic term for these huge pocket knives is, as I already mentioned, elephant toenail, or sometimes they are also called sunfish. Historically, the closed length ranges between 3 and 7/8 of an inch and 4.5 inch, like this one. There are 3 different styles of the toenail. First, there is the standard toenail design. It basically looks like this. The only difference is that the handle is straight. Just imagine these were straight lines without the bumps in the center. There is a second style where the handle tapers towards one end. It's called the teardrop design or sleeveboard pattern. And finally, there is this style, the jumbo Swell-Center. It's quite obvious why it is named this way. Just look at the handle shape. As far as we know, C. Platts designed the jumbo Swell-Center style, and it is believed to be the first toenail style made. However, the question when and by whom the toenail knife pattern was invented has been subject to a long debate. Most likely it was first manufactured at the end of the 19th century by C. Platts or maybe Case. Now, why are there so many different styles and names? During America's golden age of cutlery between 1900 and the 1930s, the toenail was a very popular knife, and it was made by many knife companies that were trying to set themselves apart from each other by marketing the knife under different names. Sometimes the toenail was also referred to and marketed as rope knife. In the late 1960s, W.R. Case even advertised it as Old English rope knife used on sailing vessels. And Great Eastern Cutlery also puts it in a nautical context by naming this knife whaler. Now, the very broad main blade makes this knife an ideal cutting tool for ropes. But it is not very likely that this knife has actually been used on sailing vessels. Sailors' knives or nautical knives usually come with a bail, which allows the seaman not to worry about the knife falling overboard. The toenail was a general work knife and hunting tool. Without any doubt, it was used for cutting rope, but in places like a factory, a farm, or a hardware store rather than on a ship. Speaking of knives on sailing vessels, the most important edge tool on a 19th century whale ship was the harpoon. In Melville's novel Moby-Dick, the narrator Ishmael learns from his cannibal friend Queequeg what else you can do with a harpoon other than hunting a whale.
I was watching to see where he kept his razor, when lo and behold, he takes the harpoon from the bed corner, slips out the long wooden stock, unsheathes the head, wets a little on his boot, and striding up to the bit of mirror against the wall, begins a vigorous scraping, or rather harpooning, of his cheeks. Thinks I, Queequeg, this is using Roger's best cutlery with a vengeance. Afterwards I wondered the less of this operation when I came to know of what fine steel the head of a harpoon is made, and how exceedingly sharp the long straight edges are always kept.
For those of you who are not familiar with Great Eastern Cutlery, I should mention that GEC markets their knives under two brand names, TDU Cutlery and Northfield Unexcelled. Both were famous knife brands back in the old days. The Northfield Knife Company was founded in 1858 by a group of cutlers who had lost their jobs after striking for higher wages. The company survived a series of takeovers, moves, strikes and other events to persist until 1926. Let's take a look at the tang number 462211. It actually consists of 4 individual numbers. The first 2 digits denote the pattern number. 46 stands for the whaler knife pattern. The next digit is a code for the main blade shape. According to GEC's tang number chart, the number 2 denotes a regular spear blade. The next digit denotes the number of blades, and the last 2 digits tell us the year of manufacture. All toenails come with 2 spear point blades, a gigantic master blade and a smaller pen blade. But even this pen blade is enormous when compared to the pen blade of a regular pocket knife. Look at this. The blade steel is 1095 carbon steel. The main blade comes with a long pull and a swedge. There are two etchings, the Northfield Unexcelled trademark, and on the other side the etching says Great Eastern Cutlery 1 of 25. GEC does unserialized and serialized editions of their knives. This is, by the way, number 13. The serialized knives come with a certificate, as you can see here. As for the handle construction, this knife is built like any other traditional pocket knife. There are two brass liners, two bone handle scales, 4 nickel-silver bolsters, and a strong back spring. The Whaler is a slip joint knife. Both blades operate on the same spring. The jig bone handle scales are mounted with 6 pins. One handle scale is decorated with this cloud-shaped unexcelled shield. GEC calls this color Antique Amber. It has many shades of beige and brown and looks really beautiful. Is it a comfortable handle? To be honest, I don't care. This is clearly a collector's item. It's one of the few knives in my collection I will never carry. It actually is a comfortable knife when using the main blade. Using the pen blade is slightly awkward because of this large portion of the main blade sticking out of the handle. Ishmael uses an analogy to a bone-made knife handle when he watches Stubb, the second mate of the Pequod, eating whale meat. It's dark, Stubb needs a lamp, and the lamp of course is fueled by whale oil.
But Stubb, he eats the whale by its own light, does he? And that is adding insult to injury, is it? Look at your knife handle. There, my civilized and enlightened gourmand, downing off that roast beef. What is that handle made of? What but the bones of the brother of the very ox you are eating?
As with all GEC knives I own, the fit and finish of this one is absolutely flawless. The blades do not rub against each other, everything is nicely flush and rounded. It's a pleasure to look at such an incredible piece of craftsmanship. I don't know of any other knife company that offers the toenail or sunfish knife pattern today. Okay, there are toenails made by Rough Rider, but I'm talking about quality knives. The toenail pattern is a very sought after knife pattern. The old-timer knives can reach very high prices. If you're into traditional American knives, you should definitely add a toenail to your collection. I would like to conclude this knife review with one of my favorite scenes from the novel Moby-Dick. It's from chapter 113. The chapter is titled The Forge. Captain Ahab asks the blacksmith Perth to make a special harpoon with which to kill the white whale. Ahab gives the blacksmith directions, but he soon takes over the crafting of the harpoon himself, hammering the steel and tempering it with the blood of the harpooners.
At last the shank, in one complete rod, received its final heat, and as Perth, to temper it, plunged it all hissing into the cask of water nearby. The scalding steam shot up into Ahab's bent face. "Wouldst thou brand me, Perth?" wincing for a moment with the pain. "Have I been but forging my own branding iron then?" "Pray God not that. Yet I fear something, Captain Ahab. Is not this harpoon for the white whale?" "For the white fiend! But now for the barbs. Thou must make them myself, man. Here are my razors, the best of steel, here! And make the barbs sharp as the needle sleet of the icy sea." For a moment the old blacksmith eyed the razors, as though he would fain not use them. "Take them, man, I have no need for them, for I now neither shave, soak, nor pray till, but here, to work!" Fashioned at last into an arrowy shape, and welded by Perth to the shank, the steel soon pointed the end of the iron, and as the blacksmith was about giving the barbs their final heat, prior to tempering them, he cried to Ahab to place the water cask near. No water for that! I want it of the true death temper. Ahoy there! Testego! Queequeg! Dagu! What say ye, pagans? Will ye give me as much blood as will cover this barb? Holding it high up, a cluster of dark nods replied, "Yes." 3 punctures were made in the heathen flesh, and the white whale's barbs were then tempered. Ego non baptizo te in nomine Patris et in nomine Diaboli! Deliriously howled Ahab, as the malignant iron scorchingly devoured the baptismal blood. Call me Ishmael.